Welcome back, campers, to day 2 of your clay camp. I hope you enjoyed the project on day 1. For today, we're going to be using the same air dry clay, but before we get started, I'm going to have to send you on a little bit of a field trip. And what I mean by that is I need for you to go outside and look around and see if you can find a really interesting leaf or plant or flower that you would like to impress into your clay today. We're going to be making these little leaf pressed dishes. They can either be a plate or a bowl. So you're going to need some sort of plant. This is the one that I used to push into the clay. It doesn't have to be a real plant. So if you have fake plants at your house, you could use something like that. Those work really well. Something that has a lot of leaves or that is a really large leaf is going to work the best. So go outside, see what you can find. And if you can't find anything at all, that's okay. We can always draw into the clay if you can't find something. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome back, campers, to day 2 of your clay camp. Hopefully you already completed your little field trip that I sent you on, and you went outside and you found a leaf or a cool flower that you wanted to press into your clay to capture all the veins and the really cool shape of it. Like I said, if you couldn't find anything, that's okay. You can always draw a leaf into your clay, or if you have any fake plants around the house. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways I did it. I used a real leaf that I found from outside, and then I also had a fake one that I had from some other clay projects. That's why it has clay stuck all over it that I used for this one. The only thing that you have to keep in mind, if you do use a fake plant, they are plastic, and this is kind of has a plasticity to it as well, so it's really sticky. So if you're using a fake plant and you're finding that it's really sticking to your clay, put a little bit of cornstarch is the best, but if you don't have cornstarch, flour on your fake plant, and then that will keep it from sticking to your clay. So these are 2 different styles that I did. Here's a maple leaf that I've already painted that's dry. That's this leaf here. And then I have one that I used the fake sort of fern almost looking, or palm. I think it's more of a palm, yeah. And this one I just formed into a little bit more of a dish, whereas this one I actually used the shape of the leaf. So it's really up to you. You can form the sides to create more of a plate or a bowl, or you can just kind of pull up the corners and keep the shape that way. And both of these can be used as a dish. You can hold things in it, whether it be jewelry or toys or whatnot. So let's go ahead and get started. You're gonna need your rolling pin again, or your can of fruit or vegetables. You're gonna need a little bit of water, and then maybe your paintbrush and your skewer stick or a toothpick, or if you have a butter knife, that can help cut it out as well, whatever you have on hand. So I'm gonna take whatever clay I have left over from making my pencil holder, and same thing, I'm gonna start flattening it out. And you may not be able to fit your whole leaf, and that's okay if it goes off the edge. Like, I didn't do this entire thing, right? I just did the end of it. If you have a really big leaf like this, you may not have enough clay left to get all the edges, and that's okay. It's still gonna look really cool and have cool texture. So once you get it about a ½ inch or so thick, kind of like a hamburger patty, go ahead and start rolling it out. I'm gonna roll in one direction, flip it over, roll in the other direction. I'm trying to create more of a dish, so I want to keep it somewhat round. If you're getting big cracks, kind of smush them, blend them together. Don't really want to add water just yet, because then it'll get really sticky and it'll stick to your work surface. And if you remember from our first video, you can also pick it up once it gets to about this thickness, and you can kind of flop it on the table, and that also kind of helps stretch out the clay and makes it nice and flat. All right, now, if you want to smooth out some of your cracks before pressing your leaf into the clay, you want to be really careful, because it's going to you'll be adding water, unless you just use your finger, and that's going to make your leaf stick more, or make it stick to your work surface. I'm just going to use my finger. If you want to use just a tiny, tiny bit of water, just be careful not to add too much. It's going to make your clay a little bit sticky to your work surface and to your leaf. Make sure you don't have too big of creases or cracks in the middle, because you really want to be able to capture like the veins. So this side definitely has a lot more cracks and folds, if you can see it. So I'm definitely going to use this side. I'm going to go ahead and take my leaf with the side that has the biggest kind of protruding veins because I'm not going to get much on this side. This side's really smooth. So I'm definitely going to put this side down. I'm going to put this all the way to the edge so I can capture as much of my leaf as possible. You can kind of arrange it to see how much will fit depending on the shape of your clay. I'll move this over just a little bit. And actually, I have a little high-rise side right here, so I'm going to do a little more flipping. I might just roll it up just a little bit if I want to be able to get more of my leaf in there. Just don't go too thin with it, then it'll be really fragile. Okay. So, I think maybe somewhere around there. Kind of push down the leaf first, so you don't get too big of wrinkles. And then your rolling pin. Don't push down too hard because you don't want to thin it out too much more. And then once it's laying pretty flat like that, I'm just going to go ahead and carefully pick it up and get all that beautiful lines and veins. Wow, so pretty. And then if anything's stuck in there that you don't want, you can use your toothpick to get it out. And at this stage, it's really up to you what you want to do. So for this one, I just kind of cut a little bit of an oval shape around the edge, and then I curled up the edges. So don't feel like you have to cut it out into the leaf shape, because you could make more of an oval or a round shaped dish. If you really want the leaf shape, that's totally up to you. Then you would go ahead and cut out around the edges right here. So if you're not cutting it out, then you would just take the corners and start curving them up like a bowl or a plate. It's kind of more of a plate. Just keeps things from falling out. Right, and then if you have any cracks, use a little bit of water now. Smooth out those edges. Really spend some time perfecting that little curve all the way around. This is where you're going to spend the most time on this. This is going to take a little bit of time. If you find that one corner is higher than another corner, you can trim it down using your toothpick or your skewer stick or even a butter knife. Or you can kind of push the clay up a little bit more so you have more of an even curve. And then once you have all the little cracks and crevices and curves the way you like it, you're going to carefully pick it up off of your work surface, put it on a paper plate or a paper towel or something to leave it to dry. And if you have a paper plate like this one, I can't believe it's almost the same exact same size. That little arc of the paper plate is going to help my arc dry. Right? That's going to keep my arc flipped up. So that's another really great option. If you don't have anything like that, I do remember a student asking me this the other day. They really wanted theirs flipped up and they're having a hard time supporting it. Take a little bit of a paper towel, or really any kind of paper, it doesn't matter what it is. And you can maybe roll it up or even just scrunch it up, and you can put it underneath the curve while it's drying to hold it from flopping and flattening out. And then when you come back after it's been drying for a few hours, then it'll be able to hold its shape. Okay, and you would do the exact same thing if you decide that you want to cut the actual shape of the leaf out. So let's say that's what you were going to do. I'm going to flatten this back out. Be really careful not to touch where the leaf pushed in, because you'll lose some of the veins and the detail. But use your toothpick or any other tool you have that's sharp, and you would just cut around the edge. Very carefully. All right, and then if you have all these little rough little beads of clay on the outer edges, just kind of pull some of them off. You can kind of point your leaf, take a little bit of water. Be really careful because you don't want to lose the detail of the veins, and just smooth out your edges. Right, and then before curling up the pieces of the leaf, I would probably put it where it's going to be drying. So whether you leave it in your work surface or you're putting it on a paper plate, and then wherever you're leaving it to dry, that's where I would do my curves so I don't have to move it again. You could also kind of pinch the edges a little bit to help them curve up, or again, just get a little piece of a paper towel and put it underneath, and then it'll dry in that position. And that's all there is to it. Then you would just leave it to dry. Either way, whether you decided to do an oval or a circular plate, or if you decided to do the actual shape of the leaf, you want to leave it to dry for a few hours, maybe a few days. This one I actually left in the sun, and I was able to paint it after about 2 or 3 hours because it dried really fast in the sun. If you're going to do that, I would definitely go back after about an hour or two, and I would flip it over so then it dries on the back as well, right? Otherwise this will kind of stay wet because the sun is not hitting it directly. And then you'll be ready to paint it. So you don't have to paint it. You can leave it in the raw clay form, but you have all the paint that came in your kit. So definitely take the opportunity to pick a color, any color you like, and always write your name and the date on the back when you're all done. Well, I really love this project, and I hope you did too. Thank you so much for participating, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 3.